This is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. If you like my videos, please hit the subscribe button. I'm sitting here in my squad car right now, and I just noticed that I am by the village limit sign, and the entire population of the village where I work on one of my jobs is 1,075. 1,075 people. Now I know there's a lot of people thinking, wow, you know, that's a pretty small town, and this is a pretty small town. It's a very rural community. If I go about 1/10 of a mile down the road, there's a farm that's inside the village limits. So it is rural. But I think one thing most people don't realize in this country is that more than 50% of the police departments in this country are staffed by less than 10 people. 70% are staffed by less than 20 people. 90% are staffed by less than 50 people. You know, we see the Los Angeles Police Department, Chicago Police Department, the big cities, and that's how we judge all of our cops. We don't think of the small town cops. And if you do think of a small town cop, you think of Barney Fife, Andy Griffith, you think of In the Heat of the Night. Well, in Wisconsin, and I can't speak for other states, but I know in Wisconsin, as a small town cop, I have to go through the same academy as the big city cops of Madison or Milwaukee. I have to meet the same qualifications. I have to take the same courses at the Law Enforcement Standards Bureau puts forth. I have to have the same update training that they have. You know, in Wisconsin, you're required to have a minimum of 60 post-high school credits, whether it's from a correctional, or not correctional, whether it's from a community college, a technical institute, or a state college. 60 credits are the minimum in order to become certified as a police officer in the state of Wisconsin. You know, you can look at a small town cop and you can think, oh, this is some local yokel who really doesn't know anything. And you know what? There's a lot of things that, because I don't deal with it regularly, I may not know how to deal with it on the same basis as a person who does it every day. But I'm going to know how to do it, whether it's a domestic, whether it's drunk driving, whether it's a robbery, whatever. We're still trained in the detection of crime and the prevention of crime as cops in any big city. Now, I remember years ago when I first went to Police Week, I met with two New York City cops, Patrick and Kent, and they'd been partners together walking the beat in New York City, and they were telling me how people would throw flaming garbage cans off the roof at them, and you know, it was common for them to go to shots fired and you know, that kind of stuff. And I remember one of the things they asked me at that time where I worked, and I told them where I worked, and they said, well, I've never heard of that. What is that? And I said, well, it's kind of like Mayberry on crack when it comes right down to it. They asked me how many officers work there, and I said 5. And they said, well, you have 5 officers working in a city of 2,000 people? And I said, well, only one works at a time. And they said, okay, how about your backup? And at this time, the place I worked was in the most southeastern corner of the county. It was a good 20 miles from the county sheriff's department. So generally my backup was at least 15 or 20 minutes away. So I told that to these two New York City cops, that my backup was generally 15 to 20 minutes away. And they both looked at me and said, you know, you're freaking crazy. How can you work in a situation where your backup is like that? Now, I looked at them and I threw it right back. I said, you're crazy. How can you work somewhere where people are throwing flaming garbage cans at you, where people are, you know, there's shots fired every night? And they said, you know, the difference is, though, if they have something like that happen, they call for backup, and within 30 seconds to a minute, they're going to have 5 or 6 other 2-man squad cars there. So you know what? As a rural cop, a lot of times you're hanging on your own. I can't begin to tell you how many bar fights I've had to respond to by myself. I've had backup coming, but a lot of times that backup is 15, 20 minutes away. Well, I'm lucky now. The village I work in now is only about 6 miles away from the county center, so my backup is relatively quick. But there are still places in the county where backup is 15 to 20 minutes away. And you know what? That 15 to 20 minutes, you're hanging on your own. You have to learn how to talk to people. You can't be the bullheaded, bulletproof badge type cop. You've got to be the type of cop who's going to sit back and listen to people and talk to people. But you're still going to be the type of cop who does your job. You're still going to make the community safe. You're still going to do your job. You're still going to stay safe yourself. So when you see a small town cop, don't think that he's some uneducated buffoon who doesn't know how to do his job. Chances are he's got at least some college education in Wisconsin. Chances are he does know the law. And chances are he's dealt with situations by himself that a lot of big city cops wouldn't think of going in by themselves. Again, I can't begin to count the number of domestic situations, and at the academy it's drilled into us. You never go into a domestic by yourself. Well, when you're sitting waiting for your backup who's 20 minutes away to get there, and you hear screaming and crashing inside the house, you go in. Simple as that. So yeah, I've had to do that. I've had to go into domestic disturbances by myself. I've had to go into bar fights by myself. I've had to go into numerous situations where they tell you never go into them by yourself. But because of the exigent circumstances and the potential threat to others, you do your job. So just remember, when you see a cop in this country, we're not all big city cops. We're not all Los Angeles cops. We're not all Minneapolis cops, Milwaukee cops. But we are cops, and we've been trained to be cops, and we all do the best that we can. Until next time, this is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. Stay safe and watch your back.